All right, good evening. It is 5:02, and we are calling to order our public hearing on the FY26 budget. And we are starting today with the full committee waiting. Mrs. Anderson is on her way. We have our superintendent, assistant superintendent, and Mr. Dave Libby here presenting our budget. And we'll get right to business if we can. Mr. Dave Libby, I'll turn this over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate the opportunity to discuss our budget this evening. It's the second chance to present our budget to the public and respond to any questions or concerns we have from the public or the committee. We'll be doing this again in March and probably again throughout the budget season until the town meeting in May. We always start our budget presentation with our district strategy and our theory of action. These were developed with our administrative team, school committee over the years, and we like to keep these thoughts in mind as we make budgetary decisions and go through our budget process. The school department budget consists of 4 major parts, 3 of which are managed by the schools. Salary, which is basically all wages paid to employees, whether it be hourly, salaried personnel, overtime, anything that gets paid to someone in a paycheck goes into a salary account. Operating accounts are our contracted services, things like tuition, transportation, utilities are the major areas in our operating budget. Supplies as well, things that we need outside of salary to operate the school department. And capital outlay is the third major part of our budget that's managed by the schools. We set aside some money to do major projects and upgrades on schools during each school year. There's another part of our budget called fixed costs that we manage and share with the town. Things like retirement, health insurance. We have less input into those costs, but we do play a part in sharing those costs with the town. When we talk about the school budget, we generally talk about salary, operating, capital outlay as the 3 main components of the budget that we control here in the school department. So the school budget process is fluid. We reflect the plan, the best prioritized plan for the goals of the school department using the resources available at that moment in time. These needs constantly change and the resources constantly change. And our budget will change as we move along through May to reflect these changes between now and our final approval time. The school budget is part of the overall town budget for the town of Tewksbury. It's reviewed, recommended for approval to the town manager and finance committee by the school committee. And then the finance committee recommends approval of the town budget to town meeting in May each year. And then the final actual approval of funds for the school and all town departments rests with residents who attend town meeting. That's what that vote actually appropriates funds and puts actual dollars into the kitty that gets used by the school department. How it works. So where does school funding come from? We start with a baseline budget from the previous year, and then do a 60-40 split of estimated new revenues with the town. The 60-40 split has been sort of a historic split that we've used based on the overall expenses of the of each side of the government. The school department generally spends about 60% of the town's budget, and the town departments account for about 40% of the budget historically. This is last year's numbers. I got to get the updated numbers for FY25 and FY26, but we find year over year, generally, it hovers around that 60-40 split pretty closely each year. Put in some student data just for general information. It's going back 2 years to look at where students were 23, 24, the current year we're in, 24, 25, and then projected into next year, assuming everybody just advances 1 grade. We had some census figures we used for kindergarten projected enrollment for next year for the Dewing and the Heathbrook. We don't have estimated PK numbers, so we kept those stagnant, and estimated a 100 student drop from grade 8 to grade 9. Here is a focus we looked at as we developed this budget in personnel, seeking opportunities to maximize best use staff based on current student population and enrollment trends. We are looking to transform the use of contracted services to employees in many areas of special education. Our educational support personnel were the main area there, but we also have a few contracted services, current contracted service providers in the areas of speech, behavioral, occupational therapy, where we couldn't provide those services through employees, and we have to contract those services. We'd like to be able to do it through with the use of employees rather than contracted services. We want to increase balancing of special ed programming between the PK1 schools. We'll continue that effort and begin to implement the recommendation of the special education audit. We recently underwent a comprehensive special education audit where a couple of the key points would be trying to reorganize and strengthen in-district programs, provide more vertically aligned special ed programming at each school, and restructuring of our PK program to include therapeutic learning centers, TLCs, or they may be going by a different acronym at both of our PK1 schools. But kind of the goal would be to provide more opportunities that we could educate students within the district in the future. Operationally, we're always searching for opportunities in transportation, utilities, technology, supplies, and maintenance, trying to keep ahead of rising cost trends in those areas. In the technology area, focus on communications, trying to improve and consolidate our systems. And we'll continue our smart board to ClearTouch conversion district-wide and make sure we have adequate inventory for our one-to-one device program. Building improvements, we're forced to reduce our capital outlay budget in this coming year in order to meet salary and operational needs, which means many of our future capital projects would require funding via town meeting articles, which would be a different way to get our projects done. But we don't foresee stopping these projects. We just want to fund them in a different manner. Needs of the Heathbrook and the Dewing, we want to make sure we can get through at least 6 to 10 years. We know we have a group working on short-term, long-term planning for our school facilities, but we know we owe the students in those schools and the staff a decent environment to be educated in and to work in. So we want to make sure we can provide that adequately over the next few years. And we're always looking at our building and ground systems. One thing that was brought up recently was age-appropriate playground equipment at the Heathbrook. Now that we're moving more of our younger students to the Heathbrook area, some preschool playground equipment at the Heathbrook would be something we want to make sure we keep on our minds in our building improvement areas. So our process works like this. Our salary is typically 70% of our budget. What we do is start with our current payroll roster. We advance everybody all the steps, lanes, and longevity increases that we are aware of in their contracts, which resulted in what you see in the table below for each of our groups. Cost of living increase, steps, longevity, and a total. We then adjust for known retirements and resignations. We align all of our employees paid from grants and revolving accounts appropriately. We examine our part-time, overtime, and extra duty accounts versus our historical actuals, and find out if we're either over or under in different areas. And review all of this with building principals and department heads as we go along. You'll see review with building principals, department heads as a recurring theme on these slides through our process. It's something we do as we, in each step of the process, every time we find out about something that may affect the budget, we're reviewing it with our principals and department heads, particularly those that it affects directly. In our operating area, which is typically about 28% of our budget, we adjust for any known contractual increases in transportation or utilities, our service contracts. And service contracts could be in any area, maintenance or therapeutic. We have service contracts for a lot of different areas in the school department. And we will adjust for those as we see the needs arise. And just for our tuition increases, we received a notice from the Occupational Services Division, which sets the rates for out-of-district tuition, that they're advising a 3.67% tuition increase for FY26. So we factored that in when we were adjusting all of our accounts for next year. And then again, review versus historical actuals to see if we're over, under in any areas. We meet with the town manager to see the amount available from the town and projected new revenues. And we let him know what our initial needs are, and then again, go back with our principals and department heads. We also look at other revenue sources, grants or revolving accounts. We have our proceed with caution symbol here because we have to make sure that anything we use from a grant or revolving account is an appropriate use of that grant or revolving account. Is the revenue going to be recurring? Is the expense going to be recurring? We want to make sure those two questions align. We want to make sure we know, is the expense expected to increase, decrease, be eliminated, so we can use funds that line up with the expenses accordingly. So when that's all done, that results in a detailed account level summary, detailed account level change to our budget. We summarize those by our cost centers. We have 14 cost centers that we sort of categorize our budget into. And when all that's said and done, it totaled up to a 3.44% increase requested, 3.75% in salaries, 3.9% in operating, and basically a cut of 68% in capital outlay, going down to $250,000 from where we typically were, $789,000 year over year. It's what we normally budget in capital outlay. We did a budget transfer this year into our salary and operating accounts to get us through this year. So our revised budget is showing very low, but that's not normally what we carry in our capital outlay account. So the numbers look a little skewed there, but this 68% is what the math works out to, the $250,000 FY26 budget versus what we normally carry in that account of $789,000. We're also taking credit for a health insurance offset. We're fully burdening our federal programs, notably food service, and along with that, our other federal grants, but for their health insurance benefits paid to employees. We're doing that in FY25 as well as FY26, and that's about almost a $400,000 offset to the health insurance line item, which is normally a fixed cost, but we're kind of working with the town manager on how we're going to show that. We're meeting with him on Friday to discuss how he's going to present it, and how we're going to present it, just so we're on the same page. And if you add in the total fixed cost and debt, it works out to a 3.3 increase requested overall in the school department budget. Breaks down like this. The salary is 71% of our budget. Most of that is in teachers. Naturally, they have the highest FTE, so they're the highest salary. 66% of the 71% of our budget goes to teachers. Highlighted in red here, the aides or educational support personnel. They're showing an increase over where they were last year. They typically ran closer to 6.5%, low 6% historically percent of our salary. And the FTE, I believe, was around 70 or 72 when we were going through the negotiation process. So this is that conversion of contractual aides into salaried aides. We're trying to show that as a projection and doing it in small bites year over year. Operating, 28.75% of our budget in this model. And again, special ed services, we're showing a decrease there, but that is mainly due to the reduction in the special ed aid contracted piece being moved into salaried folks. And it's more, our operating side is more evenly balanced. The transportation, tuition are the main pieces of that puzzle. Capital outlay is just 0.42% of our budget. We left the $250,000 Historically, we've reserved that amount for textbook and device replacement and upgrades, so we wanted to make sure we had that at least secured for next year as we make sure we are able to provide direct instructional devices for students. And future, as I said earlier, future capital projects will require funding via town meeting warrant articles. These are some potential capital projects that we keep track of when funds become available or the need becomes great to get these done. Capital projects we've completed in the past few years. These lists are getting shorter and shorter, but we still want to try to keep plugging away at our buildings and not abandon completely from our building improvement initiatives. And our grants and revolving accounts are an important part of our budget as well. We have 49 separate funds currently active. We'll be closing 3 at the end of fiscal '25. All have a specific purpose and must be used appropriately. The use must be related to the purpose of the fund, whether it's a grant or a revolving type of fund driven by fees. And we fund approximately 38 positions, either partially or fully, through grants and revolving accounts. This is our grant funding that's available FY25. We don't yet know what we'll get for grant funding in FY26. The grants in blue are entitlement grants that we generally get every year. So we can we're pretty certain we'll be getting at least what we received in the previous year. However, we did receive a warning on our Title I grant that we may be reduced by about $170,000 in FY26. Not sure how to take that at this point. We received the same warning last year, and our grant was not cut. We're going to plan for the worst and hope for the best, but we are hopeful that the same thing happens again. If we got the same warning last year, and we were surprised in the summer to find our grant amount stayed the same for Title I. It's an important program that supports a lot of our students, so we want to make sure, hopefully that will remain intact and we can keep that program running the way it is. This is a listing of our revolving accounts with sort of the cash balance over the past 3 years, where the income comes from, and then what we typically spend funds on related to the individual funds. The couple highlighted items here, school lunch account. I have a slide coming up on that. That's an important and large sum of money that we have in our school lunch account, so we did a separate slide on that one. And our circuit breaker fund, which is a state reimbursement for special ed expenses. We have a slide kind of explaining how that one works because of the size of the balance in that account. We have 2 new funds we started this year for elementary clubs, and we got some emergency shelter money this year from the state related to our town housing folks in our hotels or school-age students, and we were able to spend that on related expenses for students in those areas. So the circuit breaker is provides financial assistance to public school districts to offset the cost of delivering high-cost special ed services to students. We basically spend the money in year one, and we get a reimbursement the following year, in year two, for students that are over a threshold amount that is set by the state each year. Our 5-year history, these are our net claims from 2018 through 2024. You can see in 2024, our claim went up quite a bit because of the increased amount we had to spend. It's sort of the ultimate bad news, good news fund. We have bad news in year one, and we get good news the following year when we get some of it back. The projected number right now for next year, you'll see down at the bottom of this slide, we have a projected number of a little over 6 million for circuit breaker reimbursement for next year. We want to make sure it's fully funded. There is a threshold that the state sets that they generally will not go over, and they'll adjust the percentage paid to each city and town if it looks like the state number is going to go over the overall budget that they have set in that line item. They did that this year with the transportation piece of circuit breaker, where they funded it at 44% rather than the full 75%. So our net claim, when we submitted our claim, we were under the impression we were going to be getting back 4.6 million. We're actually getting back 4.1 million this year because of that change down to 44%. So although we project the 6 million, we want to be cautious to make sure that things are okay at the state level, and that's going to be a reality before we plan too far down the road to spend that money. Food services is another of our large revolving accounts. There's just a 5-year history of our cash balance, revenues, and expenses. Due to the free breakfast and lunch programs that have really increased participation, we're seeing an increase in our revenues here. These are our salaries of our workers that are funded through the revenues raised, and we see the same overall revenues as the end user district as if we did when parents paid. There's a reimbursement from the federal government and the state government that equals a set price for a school lunch. And whether the parents are paying part of that or not, we get the same amount for every reimbursable meal. So now that the meals are all free, the participation's much higher. So those numbers are jumping up quite a bit. So this is what our overall budget will look like in the town meeting warrant, with the fixed costs fully shown here: health insurance, retirement, our Medicare, unemployment and insurance, and all of our debt fully shown. Adding this slide too to show some steps we've taken outside of cuts to sort of raise some extra revenues to offset the rise in the cost of servicing some of our student needs. The town contribution above the typical 60% of projected revenues. The 60% of projected revenues was $1.2 million, and the town's agreed to finance us at 1.9, which was a $684,000 contribution. Fully charged all federal programs for employee benefits, just about under $400,000. Move funds from capital outlay into our salary and operating, a little over $500,000, and projected circuit breaker revenue for at 26 higher spending on circuit breaker. We've budgeted $620,000 higher, so $2.2 million. We've gone to the well, so to speak, to support our budget. Mr. Russo asked at the last meeting if there was a way we could compare our expenditures to our student population. So I took a shot at doing that, going back a few years to the first full year we had the center school occupied, where I took the student population of each school as a percentage of the total student population. I pulled the instructional dollars spent from our end-of-year reports for the past 2 years, and represented that as a percentage of each school as well. So these are sort of apples-to-apples comparisons. What's in the instructional costs is our salaries of instructional personnel at each school, teachers, support personnel, administration, any counselors, psychologists, noon supervisors, things like that, any aides, substitute teaching is all in there, as well as any supplies and contracted services that are educational in nature. Doesn't include custodial costs, utilities, things like that. It's just instructional. So kind of wanted to see what it looked like if we compared how our instructional spending lined up against where our students live. And then this last column over here is the difference between the two, where the percentage of instructional dollars subtracted from the percentage of students. So these are just the 4-year comparisons. I didn't see anything that really jumped out as, you know, a real anomaly where we had, you know, crazy percentage off where the money didn't line up with where the students were. I'm not sure if that's what you were kind of driving towards, Rich. So, and I might break it down a little more too, like into operating and salary, or, but this was just my first crack at it to kind of start digging into those numbers and see if anything popped out. But at first glance, it kind of looked like it aligned with the way it should sort of look. So next steps, we'll continue discussions with building principals, our whole school community, and as needs and resources change, we'll be refining our budget throughout this whole budget season into May and into when our town meeting occurs. That will likely result in changes to our budget within these categories. You know, we might be moving some money from salaries into operating into capital outlay, et cetera, but in general, we think that the bottom line, $78,284,088, should be good to get us through the year. We have the files that contain the detail level of our budget are on our website. I'll update those with today's presentation as well tomorrow morning with a summary by cost center and each account by cost center as well as we have a breakdown that breaks our budget down by DESI function code, which is a standard used statewide, and then the definitions of what those codes include is also shown on our website under the business office page of the school website. And that concludes the presentation.
Great, thank you so much. That was very informative. That was a second reading. Any questions, comments?
I have, I think it might be math questions, but hopefully you can explain. So on the budget by function code, it is the second to last page, I guess. They're not numbered on this one, but it's under special ed. Contracted services, 25 to 26, it looks like it's staying the same, but in the percent increase, it says 100% increase. Is that just a,
Oh, yeah, it must be
and then I have a
thing.
just a similar one on the cost center document as well.
Okay.
So I don't know how that changes, if it does anything, when it comes down to the bottom of the page, what that does to your numbers. But the other one is under the Wynn Middle School detailed budget. This one is page 5.
Okay.
Same type of thing. It's Wynn case manager salary, 0 across the board, but then it says 100% increase at the end. I assume that should be a 0.
Okay.
I just, that's the only, it's honestly just clerical things for that. And then I have a question about contracted services.
Yep.
And, you know, in the back of my head, I kind of know, but could you maybe speak to contracted services and why the amounts may change for contracted services? Something that maybe people think that is typically a set contract, you sign something for X, Y, Z, why that value would change?
Well, it depends on often the amount of the contracted service. We generally, a lot of times we have to find, we post for a school psychologist, say.
Yeah, I heard
And we
that.
get no interested employees. And we still have to provide the psychological services to our students. So there are companies that we can contract with that can do that. So sometimes we have to go sign contracts with those companies to provide those services.
So like an ad hoc change that might have come up throughout the year,
Yeah.
unexpected, but that would adjust that
Yeah.
contract. Okay, thank you. I'll second.
Okay, great. Anything else?
I just, go ahead, please.
Oh,
thank you. I apologize because I wasn't here last time, but my big question is around pulling from the capital funding to get us closer into range into the budget. So, and it sounds like that the capital funding that we have left are for kind of our standard textbooks, et cetera, costs throughout the year. So all of these projects that we have on our list for 2025 through 2028, I know there's a number of them that have been on there for a long time. The intercom system at the Dewing, et cetera. Does that mean that none of these projects will technically be funded under the capital budget that we have proposed for 2025?
Right now, yeah, we'd be going to town meeting with warrant articles based on available one-time revenues from the town, or one-time, free cash available at the end of the year, when the town has a better handle on that. It sort of doesn't mean they won't get done. It just, we'll have to take a different course to get the funding.
Do we know, for this table that you have, what the estimated costs are and what the likelihood that it will become a need for this school year? And then, because I see things like fire alarm panels, intrusion alarms, intercom, PA systems, those all to me are safety related, and I don't think we have an appetite to not handle safety related costs. So I think if we can just see where, what those costs are, and then the likelihood, I'm assuming we don't not have a fire alarm panel, so what's the likelihood of those things
Yeah,
truly being a need for the year?
they're, I think, just upgrades.
Yeah.
The aging systems, and, our vendors are recommending that they're getting harder to find parts for, harder to service, harder to maintain. So a lot of places are, recommending we replace some of these systems. So let me see what I'll get some cost estimates together on those.
Yeah, I think I think it would be helpful to understand an estimated cost. I know we don't have quotes for all this, and then the
Yeah.
likelihood of it becoming more of a necessity this year, rather than it's a nice to have upgrade. That was my big question. Sorry, thank you.
Sure.
Ms. Moka?
Yeah, I had one, and I apologize if you said it, and it's not a complaint, because it's a decrease. So why are all the operating budgets at the schools show decreases? What is that attributed to? I was looking at it by cost center on this one. All the 6 schools show decrease.
Yeah, that's our contracted aides switching into salaried aides.
Yep.
Those lines live in the schools, so
Okay.
when we pull the contracted aides out, those numbers drop.
Okay, it makes sense now. Yeah, great.
Mr. Russo?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I guess to that point, Mr. Moncada, in order to fund our salary increases from our negotiations, we have to come out of operating, essentially. So I guess just 2 questions, Mr. Libby. One is, so has anything drastic change? Obviously, the bottom line number is still the same, but in terms of anything that's been removed or added since we went through this 2 weeks ago, is there been anything of substance from your perspective?
No, we haven't had any major changes happen since 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So remember last time, and Mr. Libby does such a great job of reminding everyone, these are projections, right?
Yeah.
The only thing I would say we're keeping our very watchful eye on
Yeah.
is right now, potentially projected, not all complete, and not all even pending. We're looking at a kindergarten class of 300 again.
Yeah.
So we could be looking at, well, these are projected based
Yeah.
on trends in NESDEC and enrollment. It was brought to our attention earlier this week, when we look at all of the names that are potentially going to complete registration,
Yeah.
it's higher than expected. So I don't want you to be surprised, but it's a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of this couple of year blip we're seeing.
Yep. Okay.
Wanted to keep seeing it, but we could be coming back with a little bit of a different place once we know, and that takes months.
Yeah, understood. Okay. And then just my last question, I asked you this a couple weeks ago, I'll ask it again, is there any warrant article that we are potentially proposing ahead of, for town meeting in May at this point, from the school department?
Special ed reserve, I'm not sure if that will require a town meeting warrant or not. At this point, I'm not.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
I would also add potentially a joint warrant article on where the Tewksbury School Facility Study Committee needs to move forward,
Yep.
potentially.
Understood. Okay. All right, great. Thank you. That's all, Madam Chair.
Okay. And I just want to be very careful in terms of, you know, making sure that the community is very aware of what we're facing with our budget. I think, you know, we are in very difficult times right now. I think we are in a really difficult squeeze. I think we gave very fair contracts to all of our bargaining units. I think we were very fair in terms of the benefits that we offered. We gave very fair increases. We are also looking at really poor reimbursements right now from the state that we weren't expecting. I think we're looking at increased costs that we weren't expecting in a lot of areas for very vital, needed resources for some of our students that we weren't expecting as well. So I think we need to be really careful at a lot of our spending, and we're looking at some difficult times. So thank you, Mr. Libby, for the work that you're doing right now as we're looking at next year's budget, and then also the projections as we look out. Mrs. Terry Regan, as we're looking at our enrollment, the work that we're doing on our space committee, and it's all really hard work. So I hope this message gets out to the community, because it is it's an important message that needs to be heard. And I think we are doing our work and being very diligent in looking at these numbers. So you know, we'll listen to this budget a couple more times before we bring this to the residents, and also bring this to our select board and our finance committee. So does anybody have anything else to add? No? No. And thank you, Mrs. Terry Regan and Mrs. Milligan. So, if there's nothing else.
Motion to adjourn the budget hearing?
Yeah.
Second that.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we adjourn our budget hearing at 5:50. And moving on, I will now open our regular school committee meeting at 5:50. And good afternoon. I call to order our regular meeting at 5:50. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to convene an executive session, which is a non-public session, to discuss our approval of executive session minutes, collective bargaining, which will be pertaining to the TTA bargaining unit. The school committee will convene an open session after executive session. Is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion by Mrs. Biagioni Smith, a second by Mr. Russo. All in favor? Mr. Moncada?
Aye.
Mrs. Anderson?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Unanimous vote, and we, at 5:50, will go into executive session. All right, good evening, it's 6:31, and I'd like to call to order the, let's see what's today, February 5th, 2025, regular school committee meeting. At this time, I will, we don't have to take a motion, ask everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Tonight's regular school committee meeting will be televised and recorded. It may be viewed live on Comcast Channel 22 and Verizon Channel 34 or on youtube.com/Tewksbury TV. Under the open meeting law, the public is permitted to make an audio or video recording of an open session at a public meeting at this time. I would ask if anybody is recording tonight's meeting to please identify themselves. And seeing nobody, I would like to start off tonight's meeting with a recognition. We have tonight with us the Tewksbury Lions Club with a special recognition. Mrs. Terry Regan, if you would like to introduce.
Sure. Well, first and foremost, I'd like to introduce Mr. Jerry Sellison. Sorry about that, Jerry. If you could come up to the podium. Jerry is a member of the Lions Club. I'm going to invite some friends up with him in a minute. And he's being recognized for his role in support with the Tewksbury Public Schools students in the Jocelyn Diabetes Camp. We have two such students with Jerry tonight, so if I could invite up Ryan and Jack to stand on either side of Jerry, please. And then his colleague Kathy from the Lions Club. And then our lead nurse, Miss Kelly Constantino, who really was spearheaded and shared with us the appreciation these students shared based on the Lions Club and Mr. Sellison's. I don't know where that's coming from, Jerry, but shared their appreciation of your support in allowing them to go to the Jocelyn Diabetes Camp. So thank you. We're recognizing you. You have a moment, if you like, to talk about this opportunity, and then we'll be sharing a proclamation with you.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank Ryan for giving us all this publicity. He wrote a really nice thank you. We sent them to camp. Actually, we sent you 2 years in a row, right? Yeah. Yeah. As you may or may not know, the Lions Club was formed in 1917. So they're almost as old as I am. So in 1925, 100 years ago, Helen Keller, who everybody in Tewksbury should know, asked the Lions Club to become Knights of the Blind. So we've been working to do that. We do a number of different fundraisers, as well as you may have heard this past summer we did something called Beep Ball. It's blind baseball. It was an amazing event. So anyway, we started doing this, sending people to camp a number of years ago, and then we all took a big stop because of COVID. So to my right here is Jack Dakota. To my left here is Kathy Dakota. Kathy is our treasurer of the Lions Club, and Jack is one of the first ones we sent to camp, and a few years later he went back as a counselor. So he might be able to answer any and all questions you have about the camp. And it's a camp for both boys and girls. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Jack, and if you have any questions. What we do we have sent kids, I don't know, the last 4 or 5 years or something like that, and it costs us $1,500 per child for 1 week at the camp. So it is kind of on the pricey side, but they learn a lot. And they learn a lot about keeping their sugars where they should be. So, but at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Jack.
Thank you, Jerry. Hi. I'm Jack Dakota. I've been involved in the Lions Club for a few years now, and the experiences that they have given me, I am honestly very grateful for, and I appreciate them so much for the opportunities that they gave me, sending me to the diabetes camp, because growing up, when I first started to learn about the diabetes and how to manage it, I was the only one there that I knew who had it, besides my uncle. And the amount of loneliness that you can feel, thinking that I'm the only one that's dealing with this, is practically indescribable. And to know that there is a place that not only there are campers, but also the counselors that have this disease, I was just honest, I was breathtaking to know that I'm not alone in this struggle, and this trying to live my life with this. And so I'm honestly so entirely grateful for the opportunity and the chance that I had to learn more about how to manage it, and how to know that I'm not alone in this struggle.
Ryan, you're standing there with Jack, too. Jack, that was beautiful, and I just want to say, as a superintendent, it's so wonderful when our kids give back from the learning that they've received, or from the donations or grants or scholarships. So, we always ask them to write a little thank you and make sure you tell the person that gave you something that you really appreciate it. Working there and being part of it is much larger than that. So
We'll do it again in a heartbeat.
yeah. Ryan, we're not going to put you on the spot. Is there anything you want to share?
Going to camp was really fun because I got to meet other people who had the same disease as me.
Great.
I have a question for you, Ryan.
Yes.
When you went to camp, did you also get to feel like you could do stuff and feel like, just like you were a regular kid?
Yeah.
While you were there, like you could play and
Yeah.
do regular camp stuff
Yeah.
and still do diabetes stuff?
Yes.
That feels kind of cool. Like it wasn't just like all diabetes, it was just like regular camp.
It felt like it was regular camp.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. So I love it. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Jerry, thank you so much for doing this for students in Tewksbury, and for continuing to be committed to helping students.
Whoops. I just want to acknowledge that without Kelly Constantino's help, we wouldn't be here tonight. So I've been working with Kelly for a while now, trying to identify potential candidates for this, and she's been very, very helpful. So I just wanted you people to be aware of that.
We are aware of that. Thank you. Our lead nurse, Kelly, is pretty amazing. Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
very well done.
Thank you. And we have a recognition. That must be Joni Smith.
And if you want to keep in mind, so Jerry, let's have you face this way, because as camera reads that, and if you guys make sure the camera can see you, because it's going to focus
Very strategic.
this way. There we go.
All right. So I have a resolution of recognition, whereas the Tewksbury Lions Club supports the Tewksbury community in many ways, and whereas the Lions Club annually sponsors 2 Tewksbury children to attend a week-long summer diabetes camp, and whereas Lion Jerry Sellison is recognized for his role and support of the Tewksbury Public Schools, Clara Barton Camp and Camp Jocelyn, to send 2 students to camp to understand and learn more about diabetes. And whereas Jerry Sellison has brought great pride, recognition, and honor to the Tewksbury Lions Club and to the town of Tewksbury. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Tewksbury School Committee applauds, honors, and recognizes the Lions Club for the many contributions to the children of Tewksbury. Congratulations.
Thank you. My name's so much.
What we're going to do is, we're going to get pictures, so why don't we get together over here, because and if it's okay, public publish pictures from our school committee. Is that okay with everybody? Okay. So Mr. Marshall's going to take your picture. Excellent. Looks lovely. Thank you very much.
Thank you, folks.
Thank
you.
you for being here. And don't feel like you need to stay for the meeting. It's a
I think they.
lot of information.
I just want you guys to know one thing. I taught Bridget everything she knows about softball.
This is true. This is very true.
Best recognition ever.
Oh, gosh. Okay. All right, moving on. So, Rania, thank you for being here with us tonight.
Thank
If you
you.
want to give us an update on what's happening at the high school.
Yeah. So to begin, I have some sports updates. So some sports updates include that the regular winter sports season is already coming to a close. Several teams are already beginning to go into postseason play. For example, the varsity track and field team, we have MVCs on Friday. The girls' varsity basketball team came out with a big win against Central Catholic. The boys' basketball team is upholding their record of 12-3. The boys' ice hockey team is looking to improve upon their 11-3-1 tie at their game tonight against Waltham. The Red Rangers, the girls' ice hockey team, will be playing in their teacher appreciation game today against Shrewsbury. And the wrestling team will be having senior night tonight at 6 p.m. Now, some club updates I have include that the TMHS Theater Company put on a great performance of 10 Ways to Survive Zombie Apocalypse, and they had their auditions for The Little Mermaid on January 28th. GSA is selling candygrams for their Valentine's Day fundraiser, and another Valentine's Day fundraiser that's going on as well is the flowergrams that are being sold at lunches by Student Council. NHS had a meeting today in which everyone made Valentine's Day cards for veterans. And DECA participants are preparing for the state conference, which will be held February 27th to March 1st. Additionally, International Club recently held a shoe drive, and they made blankets to be donated. And Safe Club will be hosting a Winterberry Ball this Friday, February 7th, from 6 to 9. And just some miscellaneous information is that students who signed up for the Puerto Rico trip will be departing next Sunday, February 16th. There are a variety of career exploration speakers that many students are signing up to see in guidance, and this is going on through the month of March. And the Term 2 report cards have been posted today. And that's about all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions for Rania? No, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Rania.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on. I would like to invite our principal for the high school. Did you?
Yes, Madam Chair. As Mr. Long's coming up to the table here, tonight he'll be sharing with you or answering any questions you may have on the proposed 2025-2026 program of studies for our Tewksbury Memorial High School. You also have the change memo in your new business portion of your packet, and in the side packet, a full program of studies. With your approval of this program of studies, it'll be shared online, as well as with all of our students, not only at the high school, but at the Wynn Middle School. Students will, and families will be able to peruse it, meet with guidance, the guidance and admin teams, and then be able to choose their courses when we come back from February break. So, as I said, Mr. Long is here. There's some really wonderful updates, and then some just, technical changes. As I said, it's in the change memo. I don't know if you want to highlight certain areas of that, Mr. Long, and then welcome the committee to
and
ask
then I'll
some
just
questions.
answer questions if you have any.
Mr. Long, you're welcome to have a seat at the table if you'd rather sit, stand, whatever's comfortable.
I feel like I'm in front of
We've
Congress.
modified our.
So again, just going through some of the changes in the change memo. Joanna Green made the cover of the program of studies this year. We clarified some information about graduation credits and the MCAS. Now that the MCAS is not needed for the CD requirement. We talked about updating the early college section, and it's quite I think it's 2 or 3 pages long about all the different opportunities we have between dual enrollment with Middlesex and SNHU, Our AP classes, Project Lead the Way, so there's a variety of ways to earn early college credit. We talk about the robotics and intro to engineering as counting towards the graduation requirements for a computer course. This helps our pathways, lead to our innovation pathways in engineering. We're still working on some language in the special education department description. We removed some courses that either are no longer being offered or have changed. So, for example, biotechnology is being replaced by Project Lead the Way biomedical science. Again, we added some new courses, pre-calculus AP course, an AP environmental science course, marine science, principles of biomedical science. Again, that's a Project Lead the Way, so another early college opportunity. Accounting essentials. And then just the last thing I wanted to highlight is our nursing assistant program. We just heard today that it, we got the approval for that program, so we have a certified nursing assistant program that's taken a lot of work the last couple of years. We lost a lot of things during COVID that we had sort of given away, and we've been slowly rebuilding the program. So we're super excited about that. And that just, like I said, that was just announced today, so.
Yeah.
And I'll take any questions if anyone has any.
Okay, great. Anybody want to go first?
I don't have any questions necessarily about the program studies, but is there any type of education, training, or anything for parents of new incoming students to help them?
To navigate the program of studies and how to use it.
And I guess how to set themselves up for their freshman year.
So we're supposed to go down to the Wynn Middle School tomorrow. We're bringing some students and some teachers to sort of promote some of these things. We will follow that up with an email home, probably some sort of presentation, especially regarding the early college opportunities and some of these things like the certified nursing assistant program.
Okay, thank you.
And our guidance counselors are actually going to be down at the Wynn too, right after the break, to clarify anything to and promote that, some of those programs as well.
Because I'm assuming they have to start to select courses this year for next year if they're
They
going
do.
to the high school.
Yep.
So, okay.
So the recommendations are going in now from the teachers.
Okay.
And then after the February break, it's course selection for kids. It's going to start.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Anderson, through you, Madam Chair, if I might.
Sure.
You're right. It's not just about sharing with students.
Yeah.
Parents need to know how to not only maneuver the program, but what if a recommendation went in, for this level, but I feel my child belongs in this level? Or can my child take AP, let's say, something that, is really geared towards a junior or senior? So those are the questions that a lot of parents I've experienced have. The whole graduation requirement, and we have some really enthusiastic teachers. In fact, Mr. Long is going to go home and see an email from me on how we're doing more for the families, not only the students, because, what parents don't know, they can't promote.
Right.
And there's so much. And I've heard from many of you even who have had kids go through here and say, I didn't even know that that was a course offering. So we definitely want to up that
The
communication
course of
early.
studies, the early college period, like I said, it's 2 or 3 pages long. It's a great description. Even to just send that home for just to, sort of enlighten people on how it works is.
Little things.
Yeah.
What's CBTE? I mean, we can't assume parents understand all the acronyms we have in here.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, just to piggyback on that, can you speak a little bit about, you said it, and then I think you just as well, that some students are going to already start seeing recommendations, maybe in Aspen? There are certain...
Yeah, so the teachers, I believe it opened the 28th, and so I think it's through the 13th that they have to put their recommendations in, then it closes, and then the students put their requests in for their courses.
And that's early March.
Yeah, so they'll have a 2-week window to
Yes.
do that, and then I think it's the week after break it closes, and then the guidance counselors here go into the English classes explain the process to them, and then after they go through all the individual classes, all the classes, then they have individual meets and call the kids down by their caseload, by grade, to get them situated.
So we choose the English class because every single student has to be in English every single year here at the high school, so it's organized. When the guidance counselors go into all English classes, they're hitting all students, just so you know.
Anything for you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Long, for sharing. I do have to say, I like the way that the course pathway stuff is lined up.
Yeah.
Because it really kind of allows a student that's considering coming to Tewksbury High School the opportunity to understand what path they might be on, even though they don't really know that yet, right? So as I think about like when a student's considering Shawshene Tech and potentially shops, what shops they might want to go into, it's kind of being laid out like that. Obviously, there's not as many choices as a Shawshene Tech could offer shop-wise, but this is a great start in terms of, okay, what courses could I be taking, and what would that 4 years at Tewksbury High School look like?
Sure.
So I think that's come a long way, certainly in my time on the committee. I guess the only thing maybe I would just caveat, this might be more from a district perspective, is because I see that we're adding some things and, we're taking some things out due to, less demand, whatever. Once this gets finalized, I just want to figure out a way to promote some of this, because I want to get ahead of when we see the union publicizing and their propaganda in terms of what we're taking away versus what we're actually adding.
Sure.
So if we could just maybe be more proactive with that this year, that would help, I think, get the right message out, because I think that there's a lot of great things that we do here and that we offer at the high school level, and I'd like to just be able to make sure we're promoting that.
Sure, and that's always our goal. I mean, I know from the little to the big things. We have posters all over this building now, social media, but you're right. Some things will have to run through online and independent learning, through Edgenuity, which is one platform we use, or through another venue if there's only 4 students that apply. Others are paired up. Let's say it's a writing class, but there's 2 small or under-enrolled, it may be more of a creative writing for anyone. So again, I love that you picked out the pathways.
Yeah.
Because if a student does know, I want to be fill in the blank, here's a suggested list of all the courses we offer that will strengthen your resume when that's what you're looking to apply for in a college or career setting. Because not all, even career pathways, may require a full-blown college 4-year pathway. So it's important that we are providing professional pathways, and like that CNA, NAT, CNA, you'll hear the acronym differently. The coursework partner, spoiler alert, because that was in my updates. The coursework, us having the license to be an approved provider, the coursework partnered with the clinical experience then gives the students the ability to take the licensure or certification test, and that's either a huge piece on their resume if they want to be a nurse, or get a job right out of high school as a certified CNA. So there's so many reasons that these pathways exist. It's for college and/or career, but we're leading the kiddos to understand, what is within our program if that's what you want to be or you're interested in it. Because it may tell you in one course here, oh boy, that's not what I want to do.
Right.
And that's equally important.
And just to piggyback on the CNA program with the hands-on piece, our criminal justice is a combination of Edgenuity, and Officer Reiser has people from the DA's office to SWAT team members to FBI people in here, so that it's not just an online, sitting in front of a computer looking at, different modules or whatever. They have real people in here. They get to go outside. They have the K-9 team, all sorts of stuff here that really get the kids interested. So.
Yeah. And I think you guys have done a great job of promoting some of that stuff, just even through some of the social media handles that the district has. So appreciate the updates there.
Yeah, some of my comments, and I think, again, not to beat a dead horse, but I do think, yes, the PR is great. totally needs to be better. We collectively all need to be better, because we barely even touch on the amount of PR that needs to be out there, because I think people don't have nearly a touch of the idea of what's really happening in the schools. But I want to commend you on what a great job you're doing on just being super responsible on just really eliminating the programming that has low enrollment, and being very strategic on revising this course booklet year to year, and taking out the programs that don't need to be used or utilized, reimagining some of these classes, changing some of the language and verbiage so that it's more digestible for families to understand. I think even just changing the language like you did with Edgenuity. I love the language of Edgenuity. I bought into it. I was just kind of getting used to it. But I do think calling it the online learning platform just is going to make more sense, I think, to families. Yeah. I'll let go of it, but I do think that's going to make more sense to families. I like the idea of where you're going with this robotics and product design, using that now as a graduation requirement for computer courses. I love that. So all these things that you're doing, I was really excited. So in reading through this, everything I looked at really, really did excite me. Even the same thing like Mr. Russo was talking about in terms of how you, going through the first few pages, looking at it as pathways, and seeing that it wasn't like you were creating more and more and more. You were being really responsible and taking these classes that were already here, but just compartmentalizing them so that families could look at them and say, this is what makes sense for students, and students can look at them that way. So it's not, I don't think, probably anything different than what you're already doing, but people now are seeing it. So I love it. I think it looks great, and it's stuff that you're already doing probably, but families can look at it.
Yeah, thank you. And then, Brenda and Nancy were instrumental in that, and especially Dr. Osborne. This is like, she put a lot of work into this, so
Yeah.
thank you.
So, but you see it. I mean, it definitely was something that, just in looking at it over the past few years, I opened this one as compared to the one I have, I clip it on my wall.
Right.
And I brought this one down next to the other one, and I was like, wow, this is definitely different from last year. So I like it a lot, and I think even just my own kids going through it, it made a lot of difference. So I like it a lot. I don't really have any significant criticisms. I'm excited for it. I do have one question in terms of some of the robotic stuff. Is that any of the work done in the classroom going to translate to the robotic stuff that's being done outside of the classroom?
So right now, it's separate. My guess is that we are going to track, there will be some crossover into, the club after-school thing. But as of right now, that's, the advisor is not a staff member.
Right.
So, but, I'm sure there's going to be a collaboration there to sort of promote it and, access some of the things same things, so those skills transfer to the club and the classroom.
Yeah.
Theory and application.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, yeah, no, I think it's all great. I'm loving it. So, yeah, thank you. And anything else to add?
I mean, I had a comment, but it's more of just like, it's just, I know we reduced some of these classes because of the enrollment, and that makes sense, but a part of me hates when I see performing arts stuff and fine art stuff going away. So that's just a personal thing. But there's plenty of other courses, so it was really just a
And
comment.
some of them have grown.
Yeah.
Some are so popular that there's more sections of them and less of a onesie. And when possible, I mean, we've even had some early college stuff. So even though Senior Art Studio, I wanted to bring that one up because that was one of the first comments I said, what? That's a huge resume builder and portfolio builder for the artist wannabe, whatever your media is. But what it's now going to pair with is early college credit as more of an AP program. It's a full-year senior course where they, you know, I'm very passionate about this one, but where they determine what they're going to work on, what media they're going to work on, and then they fulfill that all year and really build that portfolio. It's still happening, even though you see it as potentially a reduced course. It's changing name and changing some of the benefit, I guess, of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, and our art teachers are just very creative. They're responsive to what students want, our music program, our drama program, and some of that's working its way into the coursework as well through the art department.
So I
Yeah, I
was
mean,
going to say, Mr. Moncada, onto that point, so many seniors that are getting ready to apply for colleges that have to do portfolios, some of them don't even know that they have to do that until November, December of their senior year when they're going to apply for colleges, and by then it's too late. So to have that ability where students can start to now do some of that with the guidance of some of their teachers and with their peers in their classes, I think will go a long way to helping to build that better portfolio in whatever art or drama or
Right, film. Yep.
program that they're
Theater.
interested in. So I think that's
So
great.
my son was an architecture major, and that you needed a portfolio for UMass.
Yeah.
He didn't take, he was into music and took that in high school. So we brought that up at the junior parent breakfast this past Friday, that we talked about all this. And our guidance counselors are very good at making sure that, you know, they're aware of some of those things, because you're right, you know, sometimes it's too late for them to realize. My son was a perfect example, where he had no idea about it. So, like, to go there for that major was off the table for him, so.
So now if it would please the board, 18A is where the vote to approve the program of studies. If anybody's interested to take a motion for that out of order.
Make a motion to take 18A out of order.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor to take 18A out of order?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, that passes, sorry. All right, so we've now taken that out of order. Is there a
I'll make a
motion?
motion to approve the program of studies as presented this evening by Principal Wong.
A second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, and the motion passes, and the program of studies is approved.
Excellent. Madam Chair, if there should be any change, as you saw, a couple of just descriptions are still pending final, especially around special ed with our audit and how we can maybe improve some of those offerings, but we'll keep you abreast of any changes that occur.
That would be great. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck to all of those students that are now going to be making their choices, because it's going to be tricky. There's a lot of good classes in there. Okay, moving on to public comment. I don't see anybody here for that tonight. Thank you, Rania.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
All right, for our approval of minutes, Mr. Moncada?
Sure, we have two. So motion to approve the January 8th, 2025 regular business meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Moncada to accept the January 8th regular business meeting minutes, a second by Mr. Russo. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay, and that passes.
And lastly, motion to approve the January 22nd, 2025 budget workshop and, well, no goal review, but budget workshop minutes.
I'll second that.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Moncada to accept the January 22nd budget workshop only minutes, and a second by Mr. Russo. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that passes.
I will abstain. I was absent for that.
And abstain, so that would be, all in favor, I'm going to re-repeat that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And one abstain.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay, submission and payment of bills.
All right, so let's see here. I move the school department payroll for pay period end 1/16/2025 be approved and certified in the amounts categories as shown for a total amount of $1,638,080.37.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Moncada, second by Mrs. Biagioni Smith to approve and certify the payroll period ending January 16, 2025, total amount of $1,638,080.37. Roll call vote. How do you vote, Mr. Moncada?
Aye.
Mrs. Anderson?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
Mrs. Biagioni Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well for a unanimous vote.
And one other here, so this is for period January 30th, 2025. I move the school department payroll be approved and certified in the amounts and categories as shown for a total amount of $1,667,855.90.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Moncada, second by Mrs. Biagioni Smith, approve and certify the period ending in January 30th, 2025, total amount of $1,667,855.90. Roll call vote, Mr. Moncada?
Aye.
Mrs. Anderson?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
Mrs. Biagioni Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well for a unanimous vote. And Mrs. Terry O'Regan for your superintendent and staff report, please.
Sure. Let me start by saying happy 100th day. I didn't know if you knew this. It's the 100th school day today, and many of our students, especially our younger students, celebrate by counting 100 different things in class, or looking at what 100 things look like, or by honoring our 100-year-old citizens through some dress. It's always just a fun day for our youngest students. So with that, I want to share with you an update from NEASC. This is the New England Association of Schools and Colleges. They've reached out to high schools regarding the school's next accreditation cycle. The Commission on Public Schools strives to balance how many schools are in the accreditation process at the same time. They reached out to us to see if we would postpone our process for 1 year. This would mean that our high school would begin the self-reflection process in the fall of 2026 rather than the fall of 2025. It was scheduled now, and the school's collaborative conference visit would take place in the spring or fall of 2027 rather than the spring or fall of 2026. So it's informational only. I want to share with you that that is postponed for a year. In your informational packet, you see that we are kicking off a nomination process for the 2025 Annual Ginsburg Family Award. This annual Ginsburg Family Award was established in 2013 to recognize an individual, a group, or a company organization who has had a significant impact on Tewksbury Public Schools in the area of physical, monetary, or tangible contributions or volunteerism for the benefit of our school district. The applications will be in our district newsletters and are due by April 11th, 2025. With that, we also have the 2025 Annual Chrissy Palomino Outstanding Educator Award. The Tewksbury Public Schools seeks nominations for this annual award, which was established in 2019 when Chrissy stepped down as a member of our school committee. The award recognizes an educator who has had a significant impact on Tewksbury Public Schools in the area of active involvement, volunteering, and giving a generous amount of time and energy to the quality of our educational system. Again, this application will be in the district newsletter and is due by April 11th, 2025. Speaking of meaningful contributions to our students and families, this week is National School Counseling Week. You have an example of the proclamation that I shared out personally to every single one of our 20 counselors in the district. I'm not going to read the proclamation, but it really just recognizes that a comprehensive school counseling program is considered an integral part of the educational process that enables all our students to achieve success at schools. The K through 6 schools made close to or over 1,000 Valentines for veterans. Rania talked about it here at the high school. Jimmy Williams of our local VFW picked them up at our schools and will deliver the many boxes of Valentines, always a happy moment, to the veterans at the Bedford VA Hospital for Valentine's Day. You also have in your packet, and while it's in the consent agenda, your vote is simply an acknowledgement of receipt. We share with you the quarterly reports from the Valley Collaborative, and in your packet, you have their newsletter, the quarterly report, treasurer's report, and the 2026 budget. And let me tell you, as Andy Long, the principal of the high school, did a little bit of a spoiler alert, we definitely received the license to approve our nurses aid training provider program from the Massachusetts Department of Public Health licensing system. With this approval, we can move forward with the partnership of our course and our clinical internship with Sunny Acres Nursing Home and Rehabilitation Center. A few more steps in the way that we have to follow, but truly, this is a huge thank you for the folks that have kept the life, pumping into this program. Kelly Constantino, our lead nurse, definitely Mary Jo Kelleher, who is leading these professional pathway options, Karen Baker O'Brien, the whole team, really rebuilding the CNA room. So this is great news. This is informational only, but it really is the tip of the iceberg in some of the advancements we're making in medical and health science career pathway courses here at the school. Also, Mary Jo Kelleher hopefully is watching, or her ears are ringing, because I also have another email from her. She is our lead teacher for the CBTE programming, which is Computers, Business, Technology, Engineering. She's been leading the Innovation Pathway promotion and Project Lead the Way through Karen Baker O'Brien as well. Mary Jo is excited to share with us that last week, we hosted the very first high school Credit for Life Personal Finance Fair, which was very successful. This event was for our juniors. It would not have been possible, she said, without the generosity of the Tewksbury Federal Credit Union. They fully funded the event, covering the cost of the Credit for Life program, all necessary materials, gift cards, prizes, candy, et cetera, et cetera. She extends her appreciation to, obviously, the credit union, the high school administration, the health department, custodial staff, IT, DECA, Kelly. Many, many people made sure it went off really well. There were 40 community volunteers from local businesses. Our juniors gained hands-on experience in financial decision-making. So again, thank you to Mary Jo Kelleher, because these really are the opportunities that connect our course, our pathways to real-life experiences. So this was fantastic. A reminder to everyone that inclement weather is due upon us tomorrow. We are definitely interested in watching the forecast closely. After all, we do live in New England, and things can change quickly, but we do expect to experience inclement weather. I will be making that call as I talk with all of our surrounding communities, our maintenance foreman, and my colleagues to my left, very, very early in the morning. So just as a reminder, our inclement weather notice is on the district website. There's information on the back of the calendar. It's everywhere, but people should make sure they're locked into our X or Twitter at TPS District, watching the local news channels, one call text, one call, and certainly the website. So this could be our first call. I can't say right yet, but it does look like it would be unsafe traveling conditions throughout the highest travel time for our schools. So we'll wait and see what that looks like as we proceed through the evening. Let me just see. That concludes my report for tonight.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Huge congratulations. I'm excited about the program. Yeah. I think when it's up and running, I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's my only comment, so thank you. All right, Mrs. Milligan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In your consent agenda, first I have 4 items which will require a vote of the committee. First, you will find 2 Project Lead the Way grants in your packet. The first grant is awarded to the Tewksbury Memorial High School in the amount of $10,000 to support the computer science pathway. The high school is committed to the professional and innovation pathways for computer science and engineering at our high school. This leads me to the second grant for the Wynn Middle School. which is also in your packet, in the amount of $10,000 to launch the Project Lead the Way Gateway program at our middle school. These two grants will help to offset the costs associated with Project Lead the Way, curriculum, training, and materials. I would like to especially thank Dr. Cindy Basteri for orchestrating the needed materials to write this competitive grant. This does require a roll call vote. Next, we have a memo from the Tewksbury Memorial High School robotics team, who have been awarded a grant from MathWorks in the amount of $1,000, and also a donation from Holt and Bugby in the amount of $5,000 to support the FRC Team 1474. Finally, we would like to accept a grant from the Tewksbury Elks Lodge 2070 towards the Wynn Middle School Drama Program in the amount of $1,000 to offset costs of future productions. With your approval on the consent agenda, we can accept these grants and donations and appropriate them to the appropriate funding sources. Further updates, my first one is in your side packet. You have an update from our AI frameworks. In your packet, you'll find... Oh, sorry, yep, I have to wait. I got ahead of myself. That's why I made the extra space. And I'm like, why did I make that extra space?
You can carry on, and we can do the, we can do the vote after, it's fine, whatever works.
You want to do the...
Want me to keep going?
Yeah, you can keep going,
All right.
you can vote after,
I
yes.
was very excited about the AI framework. In your packet, you'll find a timeline of activities to address the creation of a Tewksbury School District AI framework. The STEM director, coaches, and I have drafted a process for developing the AI framework. Key milestones have been created to help our staff and community understand how to create guidance and procedures around AI use, providing professional development for organizational learning, and understanding of AI for instructional improvement and transformation. The first key milestone includes completing focus group meetings for parents and community members, staff, and students. The family community invitations for the focus group have already been sent out. The parent session is scheduled for Monday, February 10th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Staff and student focus group meeting dates are being vetted and will be shared shortly. Currently, we have over 20 parents or community members that are signed up for Monday's presentation. In March, the district will be asking for volunteers from the staff and communities to sit on a steering committee to provide guidance and revisions to our Tewksbury Public Schools acceptable use procedures based on the feedback from the collaborative groups. Additionally, a professional development session is planned for all staff members on March 14th to introduce AI implementation and the plan to our district educators. These efforts lay the foundation for ongoing discussions and collaborative planning to ensure a thoughtful and effective approach to AI integration will be implemented within the district. The goal is to have a presentation to the school committee in June from the conversations and recommendations gleaned from our 4-month process involving all stakeholder groups about the guardrails for acceptable AI use in the district and ongoing use and reflection of AI use in the future. If anyone in the community is interested, please see our website for registration information. And as I said, currently we have over 20 community members registered to attend Monday's meeting.
Madam Chair, if I can add a little bit to that, we're going to be placing that flyer as well as the schedule in the district newsletter this Friday. I don't know how many of you really remember this. I do very well. In early 1990, does anybody know what was invented in the early 1990? The World Wide Web.
I was going to say the web, the internet.
By the end of the 90s, the internet was pretty mainstream, right? In that time frame, and I know I was a young teacher, or I should say I was a new teacher, and my children were in school, and it was a huge focus of the school district and the committee to have policies and procedures that were safe. You know, and we taught things explicitly, and now, you know, it's even though we have an acceptable use policy and procedure, it's pretty commonplace. AI is taking off much faster. It's been around a long time. It's certainly already implemented, but as Ms. Milligan shared, we don't really include those guardrails in our acceptable use policy. So we did ask Mr. Stamp, move this at the top, front burner of everything you're doing, and get the community involved, because it is moving so fast, and before there's confusion, we can, we can't, we should, we shouldn't, you know, what is it? How do people have some voice in this? so that we can adequately start using AI in instructional teaching and learning. So that's really our only goal around it. But, we want to make sure students are safe and teachers are informed and parents are informed along the way. So it's a really big task. I hope you appreciate everything this team is going to do and how many people we really want involved in the conversation. Including at the state level. We went to a presentation on MIT's proposed resources for schools, and they're looking at all of those resources along the way.
This is open for comment.
Yes.
So this is one of these things that I started to kind of look into prior to this.
Yeah.
And seeing that many school districts all over the country have nothing.
Yeah.
And when they do institute something, it's because they're reacting to something.
Right.
So I appreciate that we're doing this proactively, and we're not waiting for something bad to happen to go, oh, maybe we should have this. So this is great. I hope we really come up with something robust, because it is changing, and it's like literally every day.
Yep.
So,
Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Any other comments? No. And I agree with you, Mr. Moncada. I think I went to a similar presentation where there was a lot of positive conversation about AI in terms of how AI can be used K through 12, and not being an educator. It was presented to the group I was with in terms of school committees and how school committees can support districts in what you're doing and the work that you're doing, in that families need to be supported, educators need to be supported, district leadership needs to be supported, and what can we do from policy perspective and things like that. So I am excited about this committee, and I'm definitely going to go on Monday. And I know Mr. Moncada is excited to participate in the steering committee. There might be other members too that are interested, but I'll.
They have a great presentation planned. I think you'll be impressed, yeah.
Yeah, it looks good. Yeah, so I mean, in terms of I lost track a little bit, the grants. So when I looked back, so there's a robotics grant. It looks like MathWorks has a $1,000 grant for robotics, and Holton Bugby, a $5,000 grant
Correct,
for robotics?
Yep.
Am I missing anything else for robotics?
Not for robotics.
Okay. And then the Elks Lodge 2070 to the Wynn Drama Club for
Correct, for
$1,000?
$1,000.
Okay. So could we take the two robotics grants together? Is that fair?
Because they're in the consent agenda, your approval of the consent agenda should satisfy all of them.
Oh, perfect, okay.
Yes.
All right, great. But well, then I guess when we do the consent agenda, we should do it as a roll call vote. Okay. All right, so
And I
no
do-
other questions for Mrs. Milligan?
I do have a few more
Sure.
updates.
Okay.
I was saying,
Carry on.
we weren't done.
Thank you, yes.
Great,
I
okay.
actually think when I was cutting and pasting my order, I think I cut and pasted two sections out of order, so I'm looking.
Oh, great.
So I do have a few more updates. First off, as Rania had said, the report card and special education progress reports were released today. Just a reminder that that is semester 1, term 2 for kindergarten and grades 5 through 12. Parents can look in Aspen to receive those report cards and special ed progress reports today. Please make sure to check in on that parent portal, and please remember that this does not include our K-4 buildings who are on trimesters. Along with that, the DESE district report card was released end of last week. So each year, each public school and school district in Massachusetts receives a report card. The district and school report cards provide information on how our district and schools are performing in various areas. The report card includes multiple measures of a school's performance, more than just MCAS scores. It provides valuable information about student achievement, teacher qualifications, learning opportunities, and other key indicators. These report cards are useful tools for families, educators, and community members to better understand how to support students and schools effectively. The district and school-based report cards will be provided this Friday to families in our district directory. We have a Behind the Books event recap. Over the past month, our district hosted a highly successful Behind the Books Parents Guide to EL Education event, welcoming over 50 families and parents to our 4 events. Families participated in a mock EL education lesson, gaining valuable insight into how the curriculum is transforming student learning. The feedback was overwhelmingly positive, with parents expressing appreciation for the opportunity to see the literacy instruction in action. This event was made possible through the dedication and collaboration of our incredible educators. Special thanks goes out to our district and building leaders, Principals Terry Garish, Alexis Bosworth, Jay Harding, and Judy McGinnis, along with the Director of Literacy, Felicia Rollinson, for hosting and supporting the event at each school. And a heartfelt thank you goes out to Lisa Tremonte, Lisa Broderick, Christy Rogers, Sarah Armano, Michelle McGrath, Kim Bruff, and Katie Mazzarelli for leading engaging lessons that showcase the impact of our literacy curriculum. Additionally, gratitude goes to Kelly Cracchiello for organizing and planning this event, as well as for guiding families through the science of reading and empowering them to support literacy at home. Events like Behind the Books reinforce the power of community and our shared commitment to student success. Thank you to everyone who contributed to making this initiative such a meaningful experience for our families. Presentation slide decks will be shared on our TPS website soon. Read Across America and other literacy news. Read Across America is the first week of March, from March 2nd to March 6th. I will provide an update at our March meeting with happenings of that week. And finally, just an update on competency determination and graduation requirements. As previously mentioned, recent changes in the high school competency determination law eliminated the use of MCAS as our CD requirement effective December 5th. Students who have not yet earned their competency determination, including those on an Educational Proficiency Plan or EPP, can no longer earn their competency determination through an MCAS test or retest process, and instead must earn their CD that follows a process as described in the new law. This modification to the competency determination policy requires immediate attention for students in this cohort. It is the recommendation for the policy subcommittee to review policy IKF that outlines the use of MCAS as part of the competency determination that falls under our graduation requirements. Through the superintendent and in collaboration with the high school administration, the district recommends that MCAS be removed from this policy for the graduating class of 2025, and until DESE can provide further guidance around the use of MCAS for any of the local graduation requirements. DESE continues to state in their December FAQ that MCAS may still be utilized as a local graduation requirement, but currently there are state organizations are currently curating district information to understand how districts may or may not be utilizing MCAS for local graduation requirements. At this time, it is a recommendation to remove MCAS from the local graduation policy for your consideration back at the policy subcommittee. And that is all I have in my report.
Okay. Any questions, comments?
Comment on the MCAS? I just pulled it up. The governor was establishing a graduation council.
Correct.
Will you be following along with that, or will be given information on that as it goes forward? Yeah, okay.
Yes. We're hoping that we make a decision for our policy for the class of 2025, which will buy us time for these working groups to provide additional guidance. Because there are people that are confused between the competency determination and graduation requirements. Within the law, the competency determination was taken out based on the voters on December 5th. So we can no longer use MCAS as our competency determination. That being said, DESE still approves local graduation requirements to use MCAS if they'd like to. At this time, it is the recommendation that we would, for the class of 25, not use MCAS for graduation requirements while these working groups are providing additional guidance.
It is confusing, and
Correct.
people think, and there are two separate things. I think when you, even as Mr. Long shared, there's somewhat of clarity and update here. What's graduation requirement and where does MCAS fit in? Again, this is for, we're going to have two processes, if you will, because it is an ongoing. But one is, we got to look at that policy for this graduation year. You may be coming back to it once the district, including yourself, weigh in on what does it look like for Tewksbury moving forward after this. MCAS is not gone.
Correct.
It's still being taken. Other considerations are being looked at as well. You know, remember that MCAS scores still contribute to the Adams Scholarship, the Coplick certification, other things as well. Seal of Biliteracy. So success on it's still very important. And then what does that look like on our diploma if you reach a certain status on MCAS? Is there a distinction? Those are all those questions that are playing out. So MCAS will still happen. It's not part of CD. And Ms. Milligan, through the district and through myself, are recommending that we look at that policy and take it off so there's no confusion that it is not a requirement for graduation of the class of 2025.
So that would be IKF, I think, right?
I think we put that on our next
Okay.
policy committee meeting.
I think that's fair. Unless anybody has any. Okay.
No vote is required tonight, Madam Chair.
No, and I think that's definitely something that should go to or reasonable to go to subcommittee and for discussion, unless the whole committee has any. feelings against it. Okay. Right, I'm in agreement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or?
Are we still on consent agenda?
We have a different
I
day.
wanted to ask about one other thing.
Yes, feel free.
The TMHS PAC with the parking fundraiser, it's a question about parking. When the parking changed this year with the no more assigned spots at the high school, how has that been? Because I remember when it was being instituted, just the concerns. Has it been an issue?
I think it'd be a really good opportunity to bring the high school back, or at least give us a written, somewhat of a report on that. Originally, I can tell you, less students were pulling in late. Interesting, right? They understood that importance of getting a good spot. Now, I don't know where we're at after our 100th day. So let us ask the high school admin team and see what they're seeing, any.
I mean, I haven't seen anything, out on the internet,
Yeah.
but I just curious because it was kind of a big change and people were worried and just wondered if there was anything happened.
There's no mayhem that I know of out there, but again, let us find out. Yeah, good question.
Yeah. Okay, no further questions. Okay,
I'm good.
all right. Good. Any other questions, comments on the consent agenda? No? Okay. Is there a motion?
Do you want to go with Mr. Libby, or do you want to?
Okay, I guess. I do this every time, actually. It's a common theme, Mr. Libby.
It's, when I take up so much time earlier, it's understandable.
I think these double meetings get to me. All right, Mr. Libby,
Yeah, I know.
floor is yours.
You're
Yeah.
sick of me, it's okay. Quickly,
you.
so, looks like we're in good shape at the Heathbrook, wrapping up that project. I'm hearing a lot of talk from our contractor and our insurance folks that, final walkthrough was scheduled for tomorrow. Not sure if the weather will impact that. We'll see how that goes, but, it sounds like I'm hearing terms that sound like we're nearing the end. So it sounds good for the Heathbrook being wrapped up for February vacation occupancy over there. And I got word that I have to amend the answer to my question about a possible warrant article. And it's on our list as the last item, the potential to upgrade or replace our wireless access points under the E-rate program. So the E-rate program has a couple of components to it. It's a reimbursement program through the federal government to improve communications in school. mainly internet access in schools and libraries. And there's one part of it that's the day-to-day internet connection. We take advantage of that through Verizon. They pay about 50% of our internet connection bill through E-rate. And then there's a second component, which is improvements in the buildings. We did a major upgrade to our cabling in all of our schools about 5 years ago using E-rate money. It's the entity puts up half, E-rate puts up the other half is generally how it works. So we've been searching for a way to use the funding. The money comes in 5-year cycles. Our next 5-year cycle is ending at the end of this year. So our tech folks have been trying to find what we could use that funding on and settled on this replacement of our wireless access points that are pretty old in our buildings other than the center school. So they're getting pricing on that. It's just coming in literally this week, next week. So once we have some pricing, we'll kind of assess the value of it. Is it worth trying to tackle that project sooner or later and using the 50% reimbursement we'd get through the E-rate? So could be a May town meeting, could be an October town meeting, depending on when we get our quotes in from vendors, so.
I have a quick question. Could you use that same E-rate program for like the intercom PA system?
No.
It's only for,
No, it's very specific what we can use it for. I ask all the time.
Yeah.
The things. And it's connectivity, internet connectivity, and related hardware infrastructure.
And it's a matching grant.
Yeah. So we have to come up with
The other half.
half,
right. It's better than coming up with,
all of it, correct.
there's no like internet-enabled PA system that you could,
No.
No.
I mean, there is.
Yeah.
But it doesn't qualify under this program.
Okay.
Any questions, comments? No. Question with the Heathbrook. How are you on budget with the Heathbrook?
We're a little higher than expected on the cost that we're incurring. It's a little fuzzy as to, we'll have to sit down with the insurance folks and figure out what they're going to allow us to claim and what will be on our dime. So it's a little unclear yet, but there were a couple of things they ran into that were a little bit unexpected, that the connection between the roof and the wall didn't line up as expected. We had to have some extra roofing work done there. I think there was some extra electrical work that was not anticipated either. But a couple of things cropped up that were going to be had to-dos, but above the original scope.
All right, just curious. Thank you. All right, thank you. And now, on the consent agenda, any questions or comments on that? Anything to add? Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented in our packets this evening.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Russo, second by Mrs. Biagioni-Smith. And I'm going to take this as a roll call vote, seeing as there are 3 grants included in the consent agenda. And just for point of order, I am going to review what those are. There's a robotics grant from MathWorks for $1,000, Holton Bugby for $5,000. That would go to robotics for use at their discretion, and a $1,000 grant for the WIN Drama Program from Elks Lodge 2070, also for use at their discretion. And Mr. Moncada, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Anderson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Russo, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Biagioni Smith, how do you
Aye.
vote? And I vote aye as well for unanimous vote. And that passes.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very exciting for these programs because those are outstanding grants. So whoever's out there doing some work, that's great. Now for the school committee member reports, we'll start with the CPAC.
CPAC is meeting on 2/13. We haven't met since our last committee meeting.
Okay, great. Wellness Advisory Committee, that would be Mrs. Anderson and Mr. Moncada.
Same, no meeting since I believe it's also on the 13th. Is that a Wednesday?
Thursday.
Next Wednesday.
So it's Wednesday, the 12th then.
And Policy Subcommittee, we have met, so we have some policies coming up before us. Mr. Russo, anything you want to add there?
No, I'm happy to just go right into the policies if you are.
Okay, if you want to first give an update on School Facility Study Committee?
Sure. Yeah, no, so we're looking at options. We have laid out several different options in terms of the space and the use of our schools. We are now assessing pros and cons of each of those options, and we are working through Ms. Regan and Mr. Curran, our town manager, to put a warrant article out there to sort of embody a feasibility study that the committee and through the select board will recommend to the residents of the community. That's the latest.
Okay, anything you'd like to add?
No, but I mean, for people that don't know what a feasibility study is, that may be watching, it's simply looking at the feasibility of some of the suggestions and/or other options that the School Facility Study Committee is listing as potential options. So Mr. Russo's provided the committee with lots of detail, and I think every option that everybody has suggested is there, and a feasibility study will allow some professional entity to come in and really guide us in a direction.
Yep. Excellent.
Okay, great. And if you want to go right into our policies, that'd be great.
Okay, so we have one policy on the docket tonight for a vote. It is JLCC, communicable diseases, excuse me. As far as I'm aware, there were actually no changes to this policy.
Yeah.
So this is recommended to approve on the first and final reading. So is there a motion to just,
I'll make a motion to approve the policy JLCC as presented this evening.
A second.
all right, so we have a motion by Mr. Russo and a second by Mrs. Biagioni Smith to approve this policy on the first and final reading with no changes. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and that is approved. As I say as
The
well.
second set of policies is recommendation to revise, is an informational reading for this evening. It's policy JLCA, physical examination of students.
Okay, are there any questions, comments, or considerations for this on revision? This is before us today and will come now before us. This is informational, so we'll see this 2 more additional times, but any comments or considerations for revision?
Madam Chair, might be worth noting, again, for anybody who may be watching, the lead nurse, Kelly Constantino, was our advisor, and any updates to this policy and all of the medical policies we'll be looking at.
Yes,
Are we
did-
looking at the JICC2 right now?
Just JLCA.
CA.
Just the first one, okay.
JLCA, yes. Yes, and Mrs. Constantino did join us in our meeting to review these, both of the health-related. So Nothing on JLCA, we can move on.
So then the next one has come before us. This will be its second time. So we're revising policies. This is considered our first reading, and it is JICC, Student Conduct on School Buses, as well as, this policy is in our policy manual twice. It's under JICC and then EEAEC, again, both called Student Conduct on School Buses.
Okay. Any questions or comments on those?
I just have one question. I apologize, I didn't see it before, but where it says the parents, guardians of children whose behavior, misconduct on school buses, other transportation endangers the health, safety, and welfare of other riders, should we also include themselves? That they're endangering the health, safety, and welfare of themselves and other riders?
So,
Face the loss of
All
transportation privileges?
I'm trying to follow where you are, Ms. Anderson.
End of the first paragraph of
Yeah, it's the end of
JICC.
that first. It's, to me, it's only saying if they endanger other kids.
Could we
but if
change
they're
the
endangering
word?
themselves.
Yeah, other to all. Instead of welfare of other riders, welfare of all riders.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just something to include
it includes
themselves
themselves
too.
there. Yeah, that's fair. We'll take it back to policy. I think this will come back one more time anyway.
so,
Well, the riders, maybe,
Or any rider.
For any
Yeah.
riders.
but Ms. Johnson can look at how the
so
whole
this would come
thing.
back, next meeting would be our final
Final
reading,
reading.
yeah, and for vote. So, yeah, we'll bring that back next
Yep.
week, next month for final reading, yeah.
I actually have a question. Why is it in there twice under two different?
So it actually, it's the same policy, but it falls under student-related policies and support services.
Okay.
So it's just in the manual, basically, you can find it categorized in two different
Yeah, okay.
locations, but it's the same policy. Okay. All right, so. Thank you for the revision. All right, and moving on to old business.
Sure. So, Madam Chair, we have the 2025-2026 school calendar, hopefully our final draft, but as you know, school calendars, things can crop up. You should be aware, we've obviously vetted now this calendar several times through multiple stakeholders, our administrative team, our TTA leadership through JLM, definitely through our townwide PAC. We've received some feedback and made some edits since then, and most of them were around the early release days. We have finalized the K through 4 early release days as well. Thank you to Gail Johnson. She's been very flexible and adaptive in all of the ways we've set this up so that it reads nice. If you look at the backside page, the open houses and parent-teacher conference dates have been chosen and then vetted up against multiple religious calendars. We think we're in good shape. If there's any minimal change, we would certainly bring that to your attention for your vote again, but we feel that this is ready for a roll call vote so we can start publicizing it throughout the district.
Any questions on the calendar?
Just one comment, I appreciate I think the only change from this time to last time was the October 31st.
Yeah.
So I think that a lot of people had comments on that, so I appreciate the attention to
They did.
recognizing that day. It's a fun half day.
I think it's also worth noting, and I know our district leadership team has exhausted all possibilities with this school calendar. I know I sat in a conversation with you guys as well as with the union and tried to navigate some of the intricacies of it all and trying to take into account various dates, making sure that you don't have too many Monday holidays, Friday holidays, et cetera, et cetera. I do think it is worth noting, though, that out of the school calendar, which is not out of the norm in any given school year, but there are only 16 full weeks of school
No, I know.
in the entire school year, which is mind-blowing to me personally. Maybe this to the rest of my colleagues, I'm not sure. Just
It's a
want it out there.
challenge.
Just want it out there, that's all.
You know, you're picking up momentum, and then there's days off, and it's a challenge, and we do recognize it, and we're contractually bound to some of this, and
Yep.
definitely, you know, still also try to keep our beginning in June, you know,
Yep.
within certain days. So, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that you recognize that, Mr. Russo. We do too. If anyone really wants to know, Friday has the most time off. So I'm not sure that's a good thing, but we definitely, Monday used to be the day. Friday's the day. And we hope parents are, while they're inconvenienced often with kids coming home early, especially the younger crowd, we did try to look at Fridays up against a long weekend, so then at least gave parents a little bit more time, you know, together, instead of the midweek, which is harder as well.
Question, so going forward, are we getting to a point where the threshold of time on learning is going to be a problem if we're taking, or if we increase the amount of?
It's a great question. So we have done that analysis. We do that all the time. But through negotiations, we did it extensively, which was the root of thinking through any more K-4 early release days. We just didn't have more wiggle room. That's how we came with the 6. You know, you have to be cognizant of, early release days don't count as a whole day. While they do on the calendar, they count to the 180 when they're, you know, a half or more of the student day. They do not on time and learning. So yeah, it's a focus of the district, obviously, to look at it. And every time we go through an audit, you know, we have to again prove it to DESE that we're really following time and learning standards.
Okay. Any other questions on the calendar?
I'll make a motion to approve the 25-26 school calendar as presented to the committee this evening.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. So calendar passes as presented. Thank you for your work on this. Thank you to the union leadership that also worked pretty hard on this with you. And thank you, Mrs. Johnson. I know there was some work on your end, too. Okay, calendar is done. And now, mid-year goals. I'll start with the district.
Sure, thank you, Madam Chair. And I did give you a printout of the notes I'm reading, just so that, I mean, I have a lot to say about this. I'll try to go quickly, but what you have in front of you is like a synopsis or a summary of some of the major mid-year progress we've made on the 5 district goals. As you know, I certainly don't do this work alone. Our entire district admin team, our teachers, all of the team really is dedicated in the focus of and efforts in the heavy lifting of all of our goals towards student learning. I did want to just point your direction into our district strategy and theory of action again. You know, even though it looks like it's one of the 5 goals, the vision of a learner is our priority. The other goals feed into that. The reason it's still one of our goals is that we're still in implementation, but that is the priority, as you can see in the vision of in the strategic plan as well as the theory of action. The first goal I'm going to talk about is data-driven decision-making. The district has 4 action plans in this goal, including modeling data with the district leadership team and supervisory meetings, providing guidance and assessment and standard alignment, partnering with consultants to analyze the data, and collaborating with the Tewksbury School Facility Study Committee for future school use and needs. So some of the big lifts already was the PD that we've already provided for our admin team. Our consultants really pushed the administrative team as to how they're using data to inform student needs. Likewise, our DLT is looking at both benchmark and formative assessment data to track student progress. Our administrative book read is leverage leadership, and we focused on Chapter 1, really how data-driven decision-making, including the use of efficacy scales for our team. Efficacy is how well they function as a whole team. If you think about that tight coupling piece you heard in the SPED audit, the data showed 3 areas of improvement, so we're looking at data to strengthen our own team, was the district leadership's collective efficacy towards data-driven decision-making, Tier 1 instructional support leadership, and time management, balancing the reactive needs of their role in stress connected with the role. So beginning of the year, benchmark data review with principals was had and is ongoing, including the MCAS data, DIBELS, AIMSweb, IXL. Those are some of the tools we use. They're using those tools as well for progress monitoring. The reading and math plans are addressing differentiated teaching needs for our lowest achieving learners. Grade level data and special ed and reading specialist interventions are occurring as a result of that data. Our Aperture SEL data is used to provide whole class and grade level lessons. You had asked, Madam Chair, at one of the last meetings, parents maybe aren't sure how we use the data, and these are some of the ways we do. It's formative as well as an autopsy, if you will, on improvement. Our student support team process data shows that staff and administrators need more professional development on how to access and implement our district curriculum accommodation plan, known as the DCAP. Our tiered resources in the student support cycle will a significant chunk of the full PD day on March 14th, you'll hear more about that in early March, is right in that area, how we use those resources to support students. Most recently, our REBA special ed audit provided us with the data and recommendations to move essentially all the district goals forward, especially in strengthening our Tier 1 instruction for all. That would really fall in Goal 2, but it really was the data that we're using. So then the monthly TSFSC, as you shared, Mr. Russo, we're providing lots of data to that group to help make a collective decision. And then within the goal of DDM, I know it's not lost on all of you, think about all of the provided and required and requested data that was needed for you, the school committee, to successfully negotiate 7 collective bargaining agreements this fall. So there was a lot of data that kept coming over the table, I'm sure you remember. If we look at Goal 2, this is the area of strengthening our instructional supports, delivering that MTSS, the tiered system of supports in the gen ed classroom, supporting implementation of our DCAP, monitoring and supporting that student support process, and cultivating district leader expertise. We kicked the year off with full PD for the entire faculty on the deeper dive on what MTSS is, what SST processes look like, the homework policy and planning for the DCAP instructional supports. On August 27th, we then moved to instructional supports around safety with the CSTAG training and process. That training is being used to support our students often now. March 14th, as I said, will provide additional training towards this goal. We have continued our MTSS and SST trainings through PD with district consultant. We include case consultation as well, so the consultant is now moving the team through the data collection, but also looking at a particular case to support the team in doing it better. So it's been very helpful. We're reviewing use of intervention time. You've heard this through WIN block and things like that. Ryan's piloting a WIN block. The TMHS is exploring options for next year's schedule. Monthly professional development for admin team leadership efficacy scale identified instructional supports as the top area for PD. And this falls in job embedded PD as well for them through monthly curriculum meetings with the directors, district walkthroughs where we're looking particularly at certain objectives to support instruction. And one of those would be using that SEI smart card. And then the consultant work on leadership impact trackers. So how are our leaders doing in this work is very important to sustain any change in the classroom. Vision of a learner, I talked to you about this. This really is less of a goal, but the piece here is this is our priority. All paths lead to supporting our learners. But this year, the reason it's under the goals is it still has some action plans and full implementation looking at the implementation through building walkthroughs, and then collecting and analyzing input from stakeholders to really assess our impact on implementation. I walked you through all of that, but you can see we've done the walkthroughs. We've had visits with our consultant to really lift and elevate our leadership practice. We have set principal and building goals around this. In fact, you saw a little bit about that today, Madam Chair, when you visited our team. And then we're integrating the VOL goals into those instructional support playbooks, like our MTS playbook and DCAP. 4, and stop me please if any of this, I'm throwing a lot of acronyms, I know you've heard them before, I try to say them first for the full, all the words, but please stop. Improve literacy for all. The 3 action items include analyzing end-of-year and beginning-of-year data, and then our progress monitoring, guiding our DLT, and refining and expanding language objectives around each of those academic areas, establishing and implementing a system for regularly monitoring and evaluating literacy progress through. We've been having meetings focusing on that benchmark and big data with our K-8 team using DIBELS and MCAS. We are designing and updating our K-6 EL education pacing guides and tailored PD sessions. For anyone who really digs deep and goes into our curriculum overviews or maps, that's a piece that has to be done this year, where we take our overviews, how many weeks are focused on each unit, with EL now, and swap out the previously developed curriculum overviews for ELA K-6. It's only just begun. Focus on language objectives and lesson delivery. You hear that a lot. Every academic content area truly has its own language. When you think about the multitude of just vocabulary words that come home, whether it's science or social studies or math, really focusing on the language for all learners supports especially our marginalized or most vulnerable learners. So we're working with our team on doing that through literacy, and then walkthroughs using the tools that I described already. So effective communication on all of this, I mean, even right now, for people to understand what are some of the ways we're meeting our goals. The 3 action items include establishing effective two-way communication, not only pushing stuff out, but getting stakeholder feedback, developing a marketing strategy to explore avenues to meet our public relations and district communication needs. So effective two-way communication, some of those examples are including our staff in the professional development needs, especially during our August PD days, effectively communicating that homework policy, getting feedback into it before we wrote it, and then those tools I talked to you about that the staff needs to use. With our families, we're upping our game with the 8th grade step-up presentation, including that program of studies information. Beyond the books, you heard Ms. Milligan talk about how we were sharing what is it we're doing with the literacy new resources, and get their questions. I mean, there's a lot of questions around a new resource and what instruction looks like in the class for all students. Our CPAC meetings, and I know it didn't come up in your update, but we have re-engaged our CPAC leadership with our district leadership administrative team. In fact, we have a meeting coming up, I think it's March 13th. Our STEM consistently posts information monthly for parents and staff regarding what's going on with, science, technology, engineering, and math in our classrooms. And then, as you heard, that AI framework is a wonderful way where we're getting two-way communication on building those guardrails, if you will, around artificial intelligence. Ryan and Wynn School implemented a student voice survey to effectively garner communication from students shared regarding how they feel about school, their input in student voice and how they learn, what they learn, different things. So it's given them some good feedback to now start working through. The community, TSFSC, working collaboratively with this committee to provide data and also post it to a website that we have available for anyone to see what the goings-on are of that committee that Mr. Russo chairs. Marketing, that's a repetitive bullet there, but the Director of Student and Family Support has created, as I told you, many informational posters really to market new offerings here at the high school, including ones you heard of tonight, Pathways, Innovation Pathway, early college opportunities. Our special ed department has sent out surveys for staff, families, and students regarding special ed services to hear more about their experience. And we're exploring other avenues, really, to meet public relations and district communication needs. We have a lot that's going out one way, so people can see what's happening. What we're exploring is what type of tools are out there, one of which we explored is Thought Exchange. It's wonderful. It's just currently cost prohibitive for the district. So we are still exploring grants where maybe we can use and get Thought Exchange because we really like it, but we're not there yet. So I left it on the list because it's not gone and forgotten yet. It's just, at this point, probably not a tool we can use without a grant. So I hope you are as proud of our entire TPS team as I am. I know this mid-year review, again, in part, is a review of my progress as a leader that leads many leaders and staff and families through our school system. But it really is a representative of our collective work, not my work alone, but my colleagues and certainly everyone owns successes in any progress we make toward these goals, because it really is an all-in vision that we share.
Thank you. That was quick.
Obviously, this iced coffee is helping me get through the evening, but this isn't new totally.
Right.
It's an overview. There's a lot. You've heard bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Clearly, the wheels are in motion all the time.
Yeah.
And, you know, people are pulling in the same direction, which is really probably the most important thing.
So, all right. Comments or thoughts on the mid-year?
Okay.
I think all this work has been great. I will be looking forward to seeing the document that you give us at the end of the year that has the documented
links,
evidence
yeah.
of the goals and meeting the goals. And then is there a way that you could give us, and I don't know if it necessarily needs to be a presentation, but just an outbrief of that Ryan and Wynn Student Voice Survey?
Sure. Let me see, because I've only started to delve into the raw data with them, but yeah, I think, and that would be a link that you will see an end of year and what their, I guess, next action plan will be, because I know I can just give you a little teaser to that. They plan on building a more robust student advisory that now helps feed into, okay, why might students be feeling this way and what can we do differently? So that's really the purpose of the Student Voice Survey. We have Vocal that we also use, which is on MCAS, and that's, I think, grades 5, is it 8 and 9? It's not every year students take MCAS, but at the end of some of the... It's a couple of the grade levels, and that data is up on the district profile.
Okay.
But really, what students are telling us right in our schools
Yes.
is
Thank you.
valuable.
Yep. Thank you. That was
Sure.
Yeah. No, I just, no real questions. I mean, it's very evident that this is not an easy job. And no, you have to juggle, right?
Yeah.
And I think to do the job day to day is one thing, but to be leading a team and all collectively trying to row in the same direction is a totally different ballgame, right? Although this doesn't do it justice, because I know there's more than just 3.5 pages of an excerpt. I applaud all the efforts that you're doing. It takes a lot, and I know sometimes it might not be as appreciated. So it's good to kind of stop and pause and have these moments of sort of clarity and check-in. So I appreciate you putting this summary together. You're patting yourself on the back, but it doesn't even go above and beyond to where I think it actually is deserved in terms of the efforts that you're putting in to the collective, camaraderie of bringing a district together and ultimately trying to knock down walls and achieve goals. So thank you for all that you're doing.
Thank you. Ms. Attorney Smith?
I echo the sentiments of my colleague, Mr. Russo, with a lot of what he was saying. I also would like to call out the communication. I think that was something that I harped on a lot in my last couple of years. Here is the communication and really streamlining the way we communicate to families, the way we communicate to staff, the way we communicate, collectively. And I have seen an improvement on the communication that's delivered, whether it's, internal communication or external to families, through you, through the district, through principals, whatever it may be more consistent and have a similar look and feel. So I appreciate that, because as a parent of students in multiple schools, it becomes overwhelming. So to be able to say, okay, it looks the same in every single school or principal or SMORE or whatever you want to call it, I think that was a big win for families and something that they can see right away. So I just want to call attention to the communication, because I think that we've been pushing out a lot more information that's easy to digest now that it's streamlined and consistent for people. So I appreciate that. I'm all set. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to just kind of talk maybe a little more high level, in that I think I have a really nice opportunity to sometimes see things at the ground level that it is just a real gift, I think, and I really do appreciate the opportunity to be in those moments that where I don't think some of the work that you're doing, it's not that you're doing the work and then you're plugging it into these spots. I don't think that you're saying, these are my goals, and I'm doing this work and I'm just going to put it in these boxes. I think you truly do have these goals, and you are working in a way that you are asking the district to truly work together in a way that is working for these goals. And I think when people come to you with problems, I have seen you actually try to problem solve utilizing these goals. People have come to you and said, I've seen you problem solve things, and then you draw back on whether it be the vision of a learner or Revis and all these different things that that you do rely on. So I think you walk the walk. This is what you believe in. This is the strategies. This is truly the foundation that you have created for the district. Now, this is 100% the foundation of where we're all at. So we're all buying in. So I appreciate that in the sense that we're mid-year with these goals. The work that you're doing, where we're at, whether it be your work, the principal's work, the teacher's work, and the students' work, is all based on these goals. So I applaud you in that sense that there is an actual kind of method to the madness. There's a foundation, there's a system here, and that's meaningful. So
It's a live, breathing event, isn't it? Constantly making connections. And my colleagues, again, to my left, Ms. Milligan and Mr. Libby, they understand their role in supporting it, whether it's through the budget or the things we do with our directors. It really has to stay focused, because you hit the nail on the head. There's a lot of reaction to things happening every day as well. Can't help it. But how do you keep the train moving? And I appreciate that.
So it helps us do our job, I think, a little bit too, so that when we look at our budget and when we say the budget has to align with the district goals, it's very easy for us to do that. And it's very easy for us to, when we look at curriculum or policy, because you've done such a nice job in terms of defining, what some of these things are, and it helps us all work together. So I want to say that piece on a higher level. In terms of where we're at mid-year, I hope we do kind of push through some of the challenges that we've started to, come up against in terms of where we're at budgetarily, and kind of get through them, because we have no choice but to get to the other side. But otherwise, I think academically, we're moving in the right direction.
you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, and thank you, Mrs. Milligan, for, the work that you've done, jumping in, in this year, so, thank you. Congratulations. Good half a year. No, really. It's been a hard year. All right, now we have some school committee goals to look at. Let's see. You guys have them in front of you?
Yes.
All right. So, anything else you wanted to mention before?
No, thank you very much.
So, just to look at them quickly, we had Goal 1, School Committee Goal 1 and action steps, duty to govern, establish policies and oversee, evaluate, and monitor the execution of policies. That one there, we had some action steps. The school committee policy subcommittee shall continue to convene and review in current policies and recommend adjustment updates with appropriate central office staff. That's number 1. Any thoughts, comments on that? Where we're at there?
Seems like you're actively living it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're keeping up to date. We're looking at our calendar for our next meeting when our previous meeting is over, so I know that there's one on the calendar that we're working to schedule for the next couple weeks. And I think more importantly, I think we're taking a diligent look at the policies that are relevant to the issues that we're currently dealing with. Whether it's cell phone use, whether it's homework, whether it's now graduation requirement. I mean, it's an endless list, but I mean, we're prioritizing them appropriately.
Identify the policies that will be reviewed and adjusted, publish final changes, and communicate how the changes apply to the school community. I mean, from my perspective, I think we're working pretty diligently. Any comments from the district?
Yeah, I just want to say, I mean, I'm always impressed at how you understand that role, all of you, because, and I hear it every time, because, for example, something may come up in the community, and the first go-to question you have is, what does our policy say on that? Are we up to date on that when we hear changes? So I don't think people understand just how, that your policy, the school committee policies are our local law, and we do have to abide by them. So, and your flexibility in adapting where it's appropriate has been really noted. And I couldn't agree with you more, Mr. Russo. Looking at the ones that are very current, we have to look at the MCAS one, right? And then you'll do that. But in people don't know, you had quite a few more policies to be on this list tonight, but then there was a new ruling on some of the healthcare policies that we have that now Kelly has taken back and really fine-tooth combing. So, it's a never-ending list, but you're very, very diligent to what the purpose of these policies are and how to be flexible and adaptive when we need to be in the community. So I'm always impressed by that.
Okay, so I think we're on the right path with policy. I think we're moving right in the right direction. Committee supports of district-wide efforts to increase and improve communication. We have action steps to aim to enhance accessibility and engagement by hosting regularly scheduled office hours, informal coffee chats, inviting community members to discuss their ideas and concerns, foster a sense of inclusivity and strengthen relationships with stakeholders. So we've got our, we've had some regular opportunities for community engagement. We've had, one Boy Scout troop and one community member attend. What, five or six meetings?
Yeah.
It's not the
The
quantity,
next
it's
one is
quality.
scheduled. We do have,
The
their
next one's scheduled for
March 6th.
March 6th. Through the superintendent, identify the events and activities which prompt school committee presence during the school year. That we've been, identify members of the school committee will consistently share updates and information on subcommittees, collaboratively design impactful meeting agenda. Okay, I think we're on track.
With that one, Madam Chair, I know we usually get that Excel doc, the super doc,
Yep.
at some point soon, with all of those.
Yes.
That would be good to, just a reminder to
Yep.
principals, and lucky to have Gail to push that out to us, but just to start getting those dates on the calendars.
But I also think in general do a good job at showing up at events
Yeah.
in the schools.
Dividing and conquering too through the whole year.
Yeah, and
Great.
I've heard a number of people come up to me saying, I don't know how you guys show up to all these different things throughout the year. I mean, to be honest, it's probably something we could go to every night, but we can't do that. But I think between the 5 of us collectively, we do a good job at showing up for the district at those
Great.
different events.
Okay. All right, and final is fiscal responsibility. So here we are in budget season. Action steps, empower the superintendent to develop a comprehensive budget that aligns with the district's educational objectives and goals, foster transparent communication and collaboration through quarterly budget reviews, annual workshops, maintain accountability, supporting educational needs of the students in the district, and attend townwide finance review meetings. And here we are in finance.
One more.
Budget meeting. Oh, we have one more?
Madam Chair, may I just say this? We just attended the town manager's
Yes.
town budget review, and I think the school committee membership and presence there was more than half the crowd. So if anyone doesn't know how dedicated you are, I mean, we're privileged and grateful. The district is supportive of our school budget, and it really shows when all of you are able to attend.
This is true, yeah. And I'd actually like to thank the town manager for inviting us, because that was, it was very helpful to attend. It was a great presentation. And actually, you're right, we have a number 4 here. Committee commitment to building knowledge, capacity, and effectiveness to build professional practice. And that was to attend the MASC and MASS joint conference in November, which all 5 of us did attend, engage in training and professional development focused on content relevant to ongoing topics of interest, which we all pretty much do consistently. And actually, Mrs. Biagioni-Smith and I both attended a really great conference, not a conference, but a call this week that was held by the Attorney General's office, that was offered to school committee members. That was great. And continue the practice of review progress towards the goals aforementioned and prioritize goals for the upcoming year, which this is mid-year, and collaboratively with the superintendent, explore alternative superintendent review formats in accordance with the requirements set forth in the Massachusetts Educator Evaluation Regulations, which we really haven't done that. So I would say that's one thing that we have not done. But that's just kind of a wish list item. So yeah, maybe that's something we could explore at some point.
In all our free time.
Right. Okay. Great.
Madam Chair, I do have one point of order. We had one additional thing that I didn't see on the agenda, but I know it addresses a change in meeting dates, the calendar.
I was going to bring that up in matters of interest.
Yeah, okay, perfect, timing.
Doable.
Lovely.
So, all right, so mid-year goals, anything else for mid-year goals? Okay, great. One thing to mention, in terms of goals, the way that we addressed these last year, did that work for everybody? The format, scheduling? That worked? Okay, great. We'll do that again next year. All right, new business, program of studies, we already did that. AI framework.
Did
Is
that?
that covered pretty well, done? Nothing else to address?
Nancy,
Okay.
good with that?
All right, so we will move on to matters of interest. I do have this one item. Anything else for anybody to mention? No? Okay, so actually, it's a school committee matter of interest, but Mrs. Terry Regan, if you wanted to.
Calendar?
Yeah.
We are proposing moving the April 9th meeting to April 16th. Opportunity has surfaced under Title I and under our goal of improving literacy for spring conference around Title I literacy for all. And we would like to attend, but it does fall on the 9th. So if it serves the committee, if we could move that meeting. We do have 2 scheduled for April. I think one is at the end because it sort of serves as 2 for the May time. But if we could move that to the 16th, that would be, we would fully appreciate that.
So that would be the week before April school vacation.
Right.
We did
It could serve as your reorg meeting as well.
Yep, and it would not be the Wednesday after
Election.
the election. It would also, we did talk with Mr. Libby, it would be the weekend, it would also be the week that we would vote on the budget, but shouldn't impact
Won't impact the
anything
Finance
in terms
Committee
of the
meeting.
Finance Committee or anything like that.
I think the nice piece to this, too, so when you have your new members, or obviously they get sworn in right away. Ms. Johnson can put their binders together and things like that. It'll give that next week to do that. And then certainly the person can come to the office and we can walk them through those materials. And I know there's some training. It may give that person some opportunity to do that as well.
Right. Would that work for anybody?
Yeah. Yep.
All right,
I'm agnostic.
so, all right, so that's fine. April 16th. Okay.
I'm going to
Great.
publicize the
Okay,
change.
any other matters of interest coming up for anybody?
Nope.
Can't think of anything. No? We have a vacation week coming up, so good luck. I hope everybody enjoys the week. I think everybody's needing it.
That's for sure.
And I hope, yeah, we'll see what happens tomorrow with snow. Let's see, we have some future school committee dates. We have a public budget hearing and regular business meeting Tuesday, March 11th. We have a regular business meeting April 9th and April 12th. And we have future subcommittee and advisory committee meeting dates. CPAC has February 13th. Wellness has February 12th. Policy, we're working on some dates, so stay tuned if you are curious. And Tewksbury School Facility Study Committee is due to meet on February 12th and February 26th. And they usually typically meet at Town Hall. And that's it for tonight.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All right, a motion by Mrs. Anderson, a second by Mrs. Biagioni Smith. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. 8:27, we adjourn. Thank you.